Jim, our next question sent to CornyDriveThru at gmail.com here in this squeaky chair was sent by, it appears, Matthew. Rank these performers based on wrestling ability.
Oh, good Lord.
Feel free to add any other performers who were not good wrestlers but were booked as main eventers. Jim, rank in order the best worst wrestler. Ultimate Warrior, Goldberg, Thunderbolt Patterson, Hulk Hogan, or Vince McMahon. Or Vince McMahon, I guess I should say.
Oh, my God. Okay, wait a minute. Well, as far as professional wrestlers in the ring, as far as can you perform a professional wrestling match, that has to be Hulk Hogan out of this crew. Imagine that Hulk finally got to be the best worker. I would have to say that next, to be honest, in terms of in-ring talent, God damn it. See, here's the thing. You would say Goldberg, what he could do well, and if you kept him from doing anything he shouldn't do, he was fine. Thunderbolt Patterson had a 20-something year career. And there was a point in time in his youth where he was better than he was in his dotage. But I would have to put Goldberg next. Then Thunderbolt, just because he did wrestle for 20 years and he had the basic idea of the headlock and the hip toss down. Then Vince, and then Warrior number 5, because Vince had actually better, more memorable matches than Warrior did when he'd never wrestled before and he was almost 60. So don't you think that's worth something?
I do, and I do think Vince was probably better than the Warrior. When you were a fan, let's say pre-1982, who were the worst wrestlers you saw that you thought, my God, these are really awful wrestlers?
Oh, God. See, back then, and even though pre-82, when I started to get smart, it was the 70s, and then you could kind of understand why people were in places, even if they weren't very good.
Did you see Tex Mckenzie in the 70s?
I was about to say.
I knew it.
But going back to the early 70s, where the early and mid 70s, Plowboy Frazier would fit into that category, except he had matches with Lawler that I saw that, my God, they tore the house down and I couldn't wait to see it again. And that's the only time I've ever put Plowboy Frazier in that category. Tex Mckenzie was in the territory the same time as Big Bad John.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
And Big Bad John, for those who don't know, was a real biker gang member that had somewhat of a, from what we've heard, and I wish somebody like Hornbaker would do a piece on him, but bio on him, because they weren't sure for years that he was really dead or where he came from or all the things that he did. But anyway, Big Bad John was noted as being possibly the greatest promo in wrestling, with a look and a voice and a command of language that could call the heavens down on top of you. You hear me what I'm telling you? I mean, amazing promo, and a 6 foot, easily 6 inches tall, if not more, 325 pounds, long, scraggly, looked like Charles Manson if he was 6'6" and 325. He could be a heel and be evil, or he could be a babyface, and the people would love him. He and Bill Dundee in 1976 teamed up as the Southern Tag Team Champions. Big Bad John was the bicentennial baby. Big Bad John. Woo! What it is. And the people loved him. Without a doubt, the worst individual wrestler in the ring you have ever seen in your life.
Wow.
That's why that for most of the, including when he was in Australia for Barnett, and in a lot of his runs in Tennessee, he was a manager or a player coach where he had the group around him, right? So he didn't have to wrestle. But he was the world's largest manager. But Barnett used him because of that promo. in Australia as a manager, a leader of a group of heels. Big Bad John had a single match with Tex Mckenzie in the Louisville Gardens one night. And I guess they realized when they got there what they had done by booking that thing. And so they introduced the competitors. Tex Mckenzie turned around to put his jacket on the ring post. Big Bad John jumped him from behind and got disqualified. And then Tex made a comeback and Big John rolled out of the ring and left. The time on the match was 0.00. So yes, I did get to see them, and that was, yeah. I mean, you know, there were just some, and especially as Bruiser's territory aged out in the late 70s, early 80s, a guy named Tiny Tim Hampton, who may or may not have been related in some fashion. There were stories, because I know Bobo Brazil and Hank James were supposed to be half brothers, I believe, maybe full brothers. But Tim Hampton had been running around with Bobo Brazil in Michigan for years or whatever, but this is a time he had to be just the same age as Bobo. I saw him wrestle Bobo in 1981 in Indianapolis, and it was just brutal because they were both, well, they would have been closing in on 60 each, and it was embarrassing, kind of phony work, the embarrassing stuff. And you'd see that with, you know, in those days with the old timers that could not quit because they couldn't financially quit, and they'd go to Kansas City, or they'd be on maybe one of those IWA TVs or some small promotion that would get television, and it'd be embarrassingly see-through, where they were still trying to do the shit they used to do, but they couldn't anymore. And a lot of guys, you can't, you know, say that a guy that you saw that was stunningly bad in 1982 was always bad, because when he started wrestling in 1957, he was probably pretty good to make it 25 years. It's just that the way you saw him, you're like, oh, shit. A lot of people saw Harley Race in the WWF and didn't get it, but they didn't see him the previous 30 years.
Hey, Jay Strongbow in the early 80s. You talk to anyone who saw him when he debuted in the 70s, in the early 70s, they tell you he was their favorite wrestler. Go watch Jay Strongbow in 82, 83. Oof.
Well, and I mean, let's face it also, the competition, the field up in the Northeast was not, you know, fucking dog eat dog either. There weren't a lot of, not only were there were always great workers working there, but they weren't expected to work hard, nor were they expected to go long, nor was it expected to be complicated. But Strongbow had been, as Jay Scarpa, had been a main event babyface in the 60s in the Southern Territories, where you did have the best talent and you had to be able to hang. And he was a young guy and in good shape, and, you know, he could make a fiery comeback. But by the time 1982 came around, he was fucking 40-something years old in a company that he knew he was made in, and that they didn't expect match quality to begin with. So what are you going to get?
Well, Jim, that's ranking the wrestlers. Let's talk a little bit more about rankings and statistics, because there are so many people out there who love statistics, and maybe you love them so much that you're not just a stat fan, maybe you're a stat hero.
You know, there's a lot of people out there that are tired of getting killed by the daily fantasy sports experts. Well, you shouldn't play the experts. You should play the house with Stat Hero, because you don't watch just sports. You follow the players and the plays. And you get the daily fantasy sports book that rewards passion with winning when you deal with Stat Hero. Now, like we've said, I don't know nothing about birthing these professional sports or betting on same, but I guarantee you that if you're a person who likes to bet on sports, Stat Hero can help you out. I mean, can anybody explain to me how Mark Andrews and Lamar Jackson can blow up like that? Can anybody explain to me who Mark Andrews and Lamar Jackson even are? I didn't know they existed on this planet, but Stat Hero can. If you don't know who they are, Stat Hero can tell you too. Stat Hero can tell you all kinds of things about this shit that we know nothing about. Just need to outlast these 10 jokers and the full $1,500 pot will be mine. That's the kind of things you say when you deal with Stat Hero, and you know what the fuck they're talking about. But here's how it works. Good, I'm glad I found this line. Stat Hero shows you their lineups and dares you to beat them. It's you versus the house in a head-to-head fantasy matchup. You name the stakes. It's winner take all. Well, I guess we should suppose that would be the case. I don't know why the loser would get anything. They're just a loser. They need to be run out of town on a rail with feathers stuffed up their asses. But you name your stakes, winner take all, folks. With Stat Hero, you've got the advantage because Stat Hero is showing you their lineups ahead of time, and nobody else does that. And if somebody did it to me, you know what I'd say? I'd say, I don't know what the fuck I'm looking at anyway. However, you playing with Stat Hero are in total control. It's DFS, the way it was meant to be. What is DFS, you say? Oh, I'm Daily Fantasy Sportsbook. I thought...
I was worried.
It was one of those codes you see on Pornhub, actually. I thought that is what it most often searched, DFS. It was... Anyway, folks, if you go to stathero.com/JCE and you sign up for free right now, you can get 100% bonus match on your first deposit using the promo code JCE. They're matching your first deposit. So what do you got to lose? Apparently your first deposit, that would still be in there, but you're going to win. Think of it that way. Go to stathero.com/JCE and enter promo code JCE for a 100% first deposit match. Because, folks, the last thing you want to do when you're playing daily fantasy sports is get your ass kicked. But anyway, this is your show, Brian. The last thing I want to do is take over. Although we should mention, by the way, we haven't done this yet in the program. Congratulations to Travis Heckle, our erstwhile artist, who is getting better every day. He's going up the hill or down the hill or whichever direction he's going that's in a positive direction.
Up the hill.
Up the hill. I still don't know how that can be a good thing because I'm always upset when I'm having to go up a hill. But anyway, by the time that you hear this, folks, Travis may have contributed another piece of art or two to the YouTube channel, but we have told him that we're wanting him to ease back in gently into this cesspool instead of working him to death where his heart gets palpitations again and we got to plug him back into the wall. They had him plugged into a wall at one point, didn't they? Something that shocked the thing? I don't know.
I heard he's on steroids and now he weighs like 350 and he's all cut.
He's the warlord.
He's the warlord. Yeah, that's what I heard.
But anyway, nevertheless, Travis, so you may have seen a piece or two of art from Travis as he winds and worms his way back into his normal routine, but we've still got a ton of guest artists in the pipeline that are going to be taking up the rest of the slack until he's back on his full regimen, his full schedule. When can he eat solid food again?
I don't know.
Have we heard about that? Because
we have not heard anything about that.
Well, no. I didn't mean to tell everybody that, but he had the stomach stapling operation.
No, he didn't. Don't tell people that. That's not even remotely true.
Well, when he got up to 612 pounds.
Oh, God.
I'm just kidding. He can't weigh a pound over 500. Anyway, Travis is getting better, so you may see one or two of his pieces of art pop up this week as he gets back in the swing of things.